Yeah, Crisco. It's gonna be pretty interesting. So if you got any feedback, let me know. Let's just plow right into it, man. So, I've always loved superhero films. I've always loved them. I've been a huge sci-fi fantasy fan for as long as I can remember. And superhero films just capture my imagination. Like I said, I've been watching them for as long as I can remember. And I want to explore their history. Because as much as I love these films, I'm getting tired of these films. Every time I hear a superhero film now, I kind of like, oh, another one? Really? And I want to know why I was feeling that. Well, when I went and looked at what was going on, as we'll see later in the trends, we're going to find out why. I'm also going to tell you what it was like to be there as it happened. Like through the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, I was there for each milestone. And when I mean milestone, I mean a film that changed the industry, changed audience view. Like, it just changed everything. It's hard to capture now because now we just see these titles as icons on a screen. Let me tell you, when some of these movies hit, it was a paradigm shift. And I'm only going to focus on DC and Marvel theatrical releases because if I went off into stuff like Watchmen, V for Vendetta, all these little sidebars, we could be here all night. And don't get me wrong, I love those films in their own special way. Like I said, I've only got a certain amount of time. So, and if you got stuff on the way, this stream is highly interactive. So don't hesitate to throw up your ideas, whatever. So let's get going. But first, I digress. This comes from our dear good friend, Coach Cape. Superhero films went the way of World War II games. Exactly. And why is that, Crisco? Why do you think it went the way of World War II games? Why do you think the superhero films have gone that way? I think you know the answer. I know the answer too, actually, because I've done the research. But why Crisco throws up a little quick answer. Coach brought this up. Our good friend Martin Scorsese, award-winning director, star of Fish Tales. He had this quote a few years back. I don't see them, referring to superhero films. I tried, but that's not cinema. Honestly, the closest I can think of them, as well made as they are, with actors doing their best as they can under the circumstances, is theme parks. It isn't the cinema of human beings trying to convey emotional, psychological experiences to another human being. This is Scorsese's comment on what he thought of like superhero films and around the time while they were doing so well and all that. You know what this is? This is gatekeeping. This is someone basically who is in an area of expertise and he has distaste for things that are in that area for no good reason. In order to separate himself from those other things, he's saying, well, you know what? They're in my area, but they're not my area. They're not even cinema. This is gatekeeping. Because anytime I hear that it's not cinema, no. And we're gonna, as we get into it, we're gonna find out. Like I said, it's like anyone saying, I'm a streamer, but those guys over there, they're not streamers because they don't do X, Y, or Z. That's gatekeeping. We don't do that here. So we go back to 1970s. Now, if you want to go back to like 1966 and pick on the Batman movie based on a TV series, we can. But that, I'm not going to count that one. Because that one basically was more of a little kind of like extended TV episode. But let's go back to the 70s. The birthplace of Gen X. Go Gen Xers. So, what you missed, my young friends, is something called TV tripe. We had made-for-TV movies based upon Marvel properties. We had Captain America. We had Spider-Man. We had Kathy Lee Crosby as Wonder Woman and Doctor Strange. None of these films are great. I'm going to tell you that right now. None of them are great. But you know what? They capture our imagination. And that was the most important thing. The goal of these films on TV was to spin off a TV series. If people liked it, we'll make a TV series about it. No one ever thought that these films would be commercially successful in a theater. Spider-Man actually got a release overseas in a theater. It was the most successful, but it was horrendously expensive to make. and also a bit dangerous some of the stunts. You can watch Spider-Man online. I think Captain America online. I'm not sure about Doctor Strange. I've never heard of Kathleen Crosby as Wonder Woman. That's from '74. I was 2. But the Captain America I've seen and all that, and, you know, they are glorious. Oh, man. Glorious efforts. But I have fond memories of Captain America and Spider-Man, these films, because they came first, you know? But, yeah. Doctor Strange was fun, was it, Switz? Welcome in, Switz. Let's talk about the granddaddy. What got us going? Superman is 78. It was a massive swing for the fence. No one ever thought about doing a theatrical superhero film, and let alone put a big budget towards it. Budgets were stayed in the 70s for historical dramas, you know, epics and stuff like that. Superheroes, science fiction, no way. But the Sacklins, who are the producers, got a big budget, went out, got a big cast, Marlon Brando, Hackman, Christopher Reed, and put this film together under the guise of Richard Donner. It was unlike anything anyone had ever seen before. Think of Star Wars, New Hope. When it came out, it was like unlike anything ever seen before. That's why it was so successful. Plus, it was good. This was awesome. It's a long film. 143 minutes, 2 hours and 20 minutes. It is a very slow-moving film, but these are the way the films were paced back then. And we ate it up. Highly regarded by critics, 4 out of 4. Made a massive amount of money. Trivia here for you. A couple trivias. They shot 1 and 2 back-to-back. Just because they had a big budget. And they might as well do it. And Marlon Brando made $3.7 million for his mumbling efforts. Hackman made $2 million. Christopher Reed, Superman, the take for both films, $250K. He never complained once because he just enjoyed doing it and opened up new opportunities. Crisco, World War II games oversaturated the gaming market and became to the point to where there was no innovation could not be made due to this current technology. Seems more like a formula to get out and make more money than deliver new experiences. No problem, Crisco. You know what? You're going to find that thing, if you take World War II games, change that and put superhero films from 2010 and onwards, is the exact same thing. We'll look at that later. That's excellent. Another thing, too, is in Hollywood, things go in waves. You know, first there was like, superhero films, and then dinosaur films, and then pirate films, then ghost films, right? And there's a certain point where, as Crisco has pointed out, they're new and innovative, and then people are just trying to make money off them. And typically, as that money dies off, the new trope comes in. And this, Hollywood followed this for a while for superhero films, till later on you'll see. So think about that. Superman, if you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's a classic. I enjoy it. It is hard for modern audiences to watch it. Modern by speaking of my kids. It's slow. I'll admit it's absolutely slow. There's a lot of basically just camera shots and cinematography. There's lulls in action, all that. It is not... You could not make this film today the way it's made. Just because of the pacing and stuff like that. But that was after the 70s. That was it. That was what kicked us off. So what happened in the early 80s? Well, guess what? TV's still kicking. Those other superhero films didn't really set the world on fire. But I got to talk about The Incredible Hulk. Great series, ran from 79 to 82. Bill Bixby as Banner. You got Lou Ferrigno. We got 3 movies out of this thing. The Incredible Hulk Returns, Trial of the Incredible Hulk, and Death of the Incredible Hulk. All the movies are rating successes. They're all great, and this is going on a T-shirt. I own 2 of these on DVD. I own these 2 of these on DVD. These films were supposed to be unproduced pilots to get a TV series. One for Thor, one for Daredevil. As you can see, Thor is down there with his hammer and his fur. Daredevil just all in black, carries a white cane. They never happened. No, not really. Thanks for coming in, man. These were a fantastic time. The Hulk in these well, in the series in the film, he's kind of smart, but kind of not. I found basically that they made him as smart as they had to be for scenes, and as dumb as they had to be for other scenes and all that. But you just basically wait around for Return of the Hulk. But this was TV's last kick at the can before that just, like, you know, not going to happen. Because Superman was making money. You know what happens when things make money, right? You make more of them. Superman 2 rolled along, 81. So 3 years later. 3 years. I was talking to my amazing wife, TXS mom. And she says, as Crisco pointed out, one of the problems we have today is that it's like, pow, 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 pow. We have superhero movies coming out like every 3 or 4 months. Early on, it was 2 or 3 year gap. You had time to digest it, think about it, look forward to it, whatever kind of thing, right? And if it was a bad film, you had time to forget it. Superman 2 came out. Donner, the original director, was cut from this. This dispute with the producers. Studio still made a lot of money, well received. Donner did his own cut later. Still a fun film. You got Superman. You got Niagara Falls. You got him going against 3 other supervillains, super powered. The fight scene at the end is great. All in all, these 2 films were great superhero films. And again, you know, stare us all here. But I gotta tell you something though. So 1 and 2 are great successes, right? That's about Gutty's Law of Cinema. The more a studio is involved with the production of a film, the greater the chance of it failing at the box office. These producers in Hollywood always want to put their mark on a film. They want to get involved. They want to change things. They want to do things. Classic example is listen to Kevin Smith about the experience on Wild Wild West. The producer wanted a giant spider in the 3rd act. He goes, he's got to fight a giant spider for a Superman film. Kevin Smith was called in, asked to do a Superman film, pitched a script, read it to one of the big producers, and he goes, you know what? Great, except he's got to fight a spider in the 3rd act. Never materialized. A few years later, a guy produced a film called Wild Wild West, has a giant spider in the 3rd act. For some reason, studios want to put their mark on it. They think they can make changes to make more marketing, get toys, whatever. But my Gutty Cinema, the more a studio is involved in the film, the bigger chance it's not going to be that great. Leading into Superman 3. I don't know if anybody's seen this besides me, but basically this is a train wreck. It's, you know, imagine Shakespeare being written by like the writers of Mad Magazine. It turned the franchise a cheap joke. It was more of a comedy, action buddy kind of thing. Got nominated for 2 Razzies. And what happened? Richard Pryor, who was a very, very hot comedian at the time, mentioned he liked the first Superman film. The producers goes, let's put him in Superman 3. The only redeeming thing about this film is drunk Superman versus good Superman. The fight was the best of the film. This thing is terrible. Like, and as Crisco says, like, now they're starting to pump things out, right? To get things done. So knowing that Superman was tainted, let's do Supergirl. Yeah, we'll do something different, right? This thing was worse than Superman 3. It wasn't for lack of trying, but it was just terrible. That was the first one, Crisco. He flew around the Earth rewind time to save Lois Lane. The third one, Richard Pryor somehow learns to be an amazing computer programmer, and he creates a super evil computer that's located in the Grand Canyon, and it fights Superman and tries to kill him with kryptonite, and I don't even want to describe it, man. It's terrible. If you haven't seen it, bless you, because it is terrible. And so is this one. This one was blink and you missed it. It was panned. And something's interesting too. The films are now getting shorter. Yeah, Richard Pryor. I know. Yeah, family-friendly comedian, right? So now this film's only 90 minutes. We've gone from like a 2-hour epic to 90 minutes of whatever. Helen Slater is great as Supergirl. Everything else about this is just garbage. So now you've got 2 great films and 2 strikes. So now the studio's going like that. What do? You keep beating that horse until there's no more money coming out of it. 1987. I'm 15 years old. Back to the Well. Original cast came back. Nuclear War is the theme. Reeve put some input in the story. This thing's dead in arrival. It doesn't look anything like the first two films. No one could save it. John Cryer is in, I think, as Lex Luthor's nephew or something like that. He recalls the story was after they finished shooting, Reeve took him aside and said, "This film sucks. Be prepared." And it pretty much killed the franchise. And like 87, is this the end of the superhero films? Like you said, things go in tropes. Like at a certain point, do you stop going back to the well? And I was surprised it came out 87 because I saw it and I was like, oh God. You know, it was left such a bad taste in my mouth. I didn't watch anything else. Well, guess what? Watershed moment. Batman 89. This was Superman was a watershed moment for for superhero films. This was too. After Superman 4, they thought pretty much, you know, superhero films were done. This thing was kicking around for 10 years. And it did not have basically a smooth ride into Hollywood. Tim Burton has just come off of the success of Pee-wee's Big Adventure. He's cast as director. He wanted Keaton. And he got Keaton. And everybody wrote in, trash Keaton, saying he can't be a superhero. He can't be Batman. And the backlash over Keaton went right on up until the film was released. When it came out and hit the theaters, it blew our minds. It was, again, gone was a Superman comedy, lighthearted feeling. And then now we got kind of like a darker, it's a dark film. And some people thought it was too dark to be a film because, don't forget, Superman of the 70s, Batman of the 60s was campy, fun, and light. But this film made gangbusters. It made money. It's well received. When I went and saw it in the theater, it was so dark it was hard to see some scenes. They lightened it for the VHS release. Its success led to Batman the Animated Series. But there's something else too that was important that happened. Bring it up here real quick here. Just pause this quick here. Something else important really happened, and it was this.
You remember that old saying, flying like a bat out of, well, you know the saying. Well, that's the way people are flocking to retail outlets to get their share of Batmania.
Now, what do you think?
Retailers think it's wonderful.
Merchandising.
And they pulled out all the Bat stops. Bat shoes, Bat towels, Bat shirts, Bat mugs. And none of the Bat
The money made from merchandising of the Batman film was insane.
I wish I had one here to show you, but obviously we've had a couple of orders of those come in. They're gone. The hats are gone. I mean, it's just certain items that just continue to go.
More than 100 companies have been licensed to sell the Cape.
Imagine that, 100 companies.
But the merchandise. Even his royal purple badness, Prince, has come out with a soundtrack. More hype for a movie that hasn't quite left the Bat Cave yet.
I think it's gonna be rad.
Really? What's rad?
Rad, dude.
Radical.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. And kids aren't the only ones experiencing holy cow syndrome. The older generation has been keeping this McKinney Avenue Bat Gallery pretty busy. Old movie marquees, Batman miniatures, buttons, and yes, comic books are going like Batcades.
Batman's become hip and cool, and people can come out of the closet and admit that they read Batman and that.
You thought Star Wars was merchandising?
Theater employees will probably clean
Batman
up
even
in
more.
overtime this weekend. People have been trying to buy tickets now since early this morning. So as the fever builds, Batman is already in the bag, retailers say, and if the movie's a hit or not may not even matter. Now, Batman will open in some 2,000 theaters.
It even was like the merchandise was even popular before the film even came out.
All the money they spent on the hype, the movie producers are hoping that they too can scream "Holy cow!" That is, when the box office receipts are totaled. Larry Mullins, Channel 5 News, at a theater near you.
And check this out.
Hello, Gotham Corner Store. Yes,
anything for $1.
We seem to be down to our last Diet Coke. A gentleman is on his way to pick some up. Just look for a black car. No, this black car will be rather difficult
you know,
to miss.
Batman
By the way,
fans drink diet drinks.
the gentleman is usually in quite a rush.
Just for the taste of it, Diet Coke.
Oh, sorry guys, I had to throw that up there because I got a kick out of that. But yeah, the merchandising alone was insane for that, and so insane to the point where Jack Nicholson, as part of his salary, took a cut of merchandise rights. Said, you know what? Give me a cut of merchandise rights. I heard it was like 1% or 2%. I forget how many tens of millions. Like, it made him a ton of money. Never had to work again if he wanted to. That was at the end of '89. Look at that. We're in the 90s. Now, I imagine this is a time where a lot of you were being born, I would assume. Again, Batman 2 or Batman Returns. Burton was hesitant to do a sequel. He didn't believe in sequels, he said. Pretty dark film, though, when you look at it, what's going on. Decent box office, holds up well. If anyone has seen the Superman films or Batman films, let me know in the chat. Like I said, Batman and Batman Returns used to be popular films in my rotation. I'd watch them all the time. The merchandise for this was also cranked up to 9 as well. So it was like all over the place. However, things are trying to change a bit now. This film is very gruesome. We have electrocutions, falling out of windows. It is, and the Penguin, like I said, is very scary. There was McDonald's tie-ins and all that. It got so bad, complaints of parents groups, a lot of the merch began being pulled. McDonald's actually pulled its partnership with them and said, no, we can't do this. So we have that influence from the outside groups, right? So what do you think happens when you get that pressure from outside groups? If you're an artist and someone says, I don't like your art, what do you do? Well, studios listen. Remember Gutty's law? Remember when I said the more involved they are, studios makes a film more likely to fail. So the studio listened. Burton's out. They felt they had to go in a more family-friendly, child-appropriate way. They hired Schumacher, the new director. Quote, I'm making a comic book film. I'm not making cinema. I'm making a comic book film. And it was like, I wouldn't say it was a disaster, but for Gen Xers who grew up on that dark Batman stuff, we've got the other generation coming along. My daughter enjoys Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, and I have no problems with that. I know some people do too, but this was basically like a 180 from what was there. Schumacher and Kilmer clashed in the set all the time. They didn't get along. Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey didn't get along either. Tommy Lee Jones told Carrey to his face, I hate you. I really don't like you. I cannot sanction your buffoonery. So reviews, decent box office. Best quote was, great bubblegum for the eyes. So it was a complete failure, but things were changing. Now, this is 95. We're going to take a quick little intersection here. If you wondered why we didn't get Spider-Man films, X-Men films, all those right away, Marvel was in financial trouble in the 90s. I mean, like, deep financial trouble. They were on the verge of going away. So, in 96, they literally had a fire sale. They were licensing their properties, doing anything they could to make money. So, they actually just sold off the movie rights. Spider-Man went to Sony. X-Men Fantastic Four went to Fox. Universal went to Hulk. Studios could keep their rights forever as long as they made a movie every few years. Do you know how much Sony paid for Spider-Man? They paid $10 million for the rights in perpetuity, which means they'll go on forever. Marvel said to Sony, true story, we'll give you license to all our characters forever to make movies for $25 million. And Sony said, no, that's just too much. So that's why basically all those superhero properties went everywhere, basically. Batman and Robin, 97, fourth Batman film in that kind of trilogy. The last film was good, but it was not merchandise enough. So the studio, remember Gutty's Law, make it more toyetic. We want to be able to sell more toys. And it's also fast track. Instead of waiting 3 years, it went 2. And it was popped right back up. It popped right out. Oh, we're in an ad break here. Wait a minute so everybody comes back from the ad. But yeah, like I said, Chris got ahead perfectly. It was this, you know, I used the term rise and fall, but it was basically a rise and fall of a superhero film. And like I said, the studio was involved, trying to make it more toyetic, more merchandising, more comical, put this villain in, put that in. I cannot begin to describe how insane this came out to be. And like I said, my daughter, Spooky Little Leo, remembers this film fondly. That's fine. I have no problems with that. But for someone like me who grew up on the Superman and the Batmans, like I said, you could tell the studio was just being patronizing at this point. 10 more seconds, we're back with our audience. Come on in. Pull up a chair. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boom. And normally, like I said, I mentioned before too, is there was a 3-year gap between films usually, just for budgeting and scheduling and stuff like that. This one was fast-tracked. This one came out literally 2 years later. Chris O'Donnell played Batman. Quote, felt like I was making a toy commercial. It's not good. It's not good at all. It was one of the biggest box office bombs in superhero history in '97. Again, you get in that palette that's not just really sitting on someone's good palette. If you had any experience with these films, let me know. Like I said, kind of curious what people's perspective is. The next weren't all bad. We got Blade. Blade was one of those films that was just out there. It's a Marvel character. First cut was 140 minutes long. Had to be chopped right down. About 2 hours. Moderate success, led 2 sequels. Again, it offered people an alternative to the bubblegum, happy-go-lucky Batman and Robin film. This was dark, violent. Its big thing was it made vampire films cool again. It's a unique piece of history, in my opinion. Because one of the games I like to play is, I like to see is, can I make a film out of this hero? And I see films coming up, I always guess yes or no. It's unfilmable, not unfilmable. And Blade, I thought, it's kind of weird. I never thought Blade as a superhero, but Blade as like a vampire hunter. I guess that was the big thing, you know. Marvel wasn't in your face about this. We're in the 2000s. We have basically gone through 30 years of cinema. About 30 years or so. Of superhero cinema. And here's where we get back to that World War II flooding. So, the floodgates are opening. In the first 30 years, there are about 10 theatrical films released based upon Marvel Disney properties. About that. In the next 10 years, there are nearly 20 films. We went from craving these superhero films and being fed like a nice, moderate, you know, digestible diet to drowning in them. It's like, you know? And it's kind of like being a frog in a boiling pot of water. You don't realize you're boiling until it's too late when they turn the heat up. At this point, I actually have to go through and group them by franchise because there's so many of them. So like I said, if you see something, shout out, let us know. X-Men was in 2000. Best thing about this was it gave us Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. The Batman colorful bubblegum movie is kind of like washed away from our memories. One or two are strong films. They're a good balance between superhero but not being dark and violent. I enjoy them. I thought their casting was pretty well done. One and two were quite well done. The third one, off the rails. Again, Gutty's Law. New director, new cast contracts, a lot of studio meddling. So the studio wanted certain characters killed off, like Cyclops, Professor X, to help. It all helped kill the franchise. They had their idea, whatever. All the cast only had 2 deal contracts. So a third deal, they negotiated with all the cast to bring them back. That meant negotiating about the script, about screen time, about everything. And it just really weighed that third film right down to nothing. Even worse, the studio was also developing X-Men Origins Wolverine at the same time, and had a list about who could be in this film mutant-wise. That's like having 2 Superman films going on and saying you can have Lex Luthor in this film, but not in this film. I don't know why you would do that, but that's Fox just being Fox. And after 2 strong films, in 6 years, the franchise cashed and burned. But don't worry. We have a new hero. Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy. I was so excited when I heard that Sam Raimi was going to be doing Spider-Man. I was a big Sam Raimi fan. I still am. His Army of Darkness films, Darkman, comic director, has a very unique style in comedy. Absolutely love them. I thought Spider-Man was great when it came out. The casting, Tom Maguire was great. William Dafoe's fantastic as a Green Goblin, pardon me. And the first 2 films are great. And I will argue, many will, that Spider-Man 2 is a better film than Spider-Man 1. And believe it or not, some people will actually argue that Spider-Man 2 is probably the best modern superhero film to this point since Superman. And I'm inclined to agree. But what happens? Spider-Man 3. Studio comes walking in and goes, you know what? We want Venom. We want Gwen Stacy. We want this, we want that, and you're going to make it happen. And Sam Raimi tried to basically say no, but lost that battle. So he's making one film, the studio's got another part of the film, and it's basically just a mash of crash and burn. I still watch it. I watched the first 2 Spider-Mans recently. They hold up quite well. But it's funny because we're used to the Marvel and DC films of today, even though it's only like 20 years ago. Whew. These films have a different pace and beat. Go back to watch Superman from 78. Slower. Longer gaps between plot. This Spider-Man, action scene, action scene, action scene, action scene. And it's just a way to do it for digestible content. Is this cinema? Yes. You watch Spider-Man. You cannot tell me there's not emotional or psychological impact watching that. Single Ben die and Toby's performance in that. This is cinema. Doesn't matter it's superhero, sci-fi, fantasy. This is cinema. Now, for every X-Men and Spider-Man, we got this. Oh, Fantastic Four. Oh, man. So, I'm beginning to think at this point that Fox was not that great of a movie franchise, of a movie studio. These are not great films. They're there. The first one was okay. Second one bombed hard, but it's just there. How bad is that? The Incredibles, which is another great superhero film by Disney, shamed the studio, shamed Fox, into improving Fantastic Four. Because the effects on the screen for Incredibles were miles better than what was initial cut. They aren't, like I said, they're not a film you're going to put on and watch again. You know, they're just there. I thought Ian Gufford was cast well. Chris Evans is Chris Evans. Who knows we'd get Captain America later. Alba's Alba. I'm not going to say much about her. But when do I get my Evans, Torch, and Captain America crossover? But again, the studio made money on the first one. Let's go again for the second one to keep that license going. Because we got to make that film every 2 or 3 years. Get that license from Marvel for next to nothing. Here's a weird one. So we're in the middle of the 2000s. We get Superman Returns, Brandon Routh, Kevin Spacey. It was actually kind of a continuation from the Superman from 1978 story-wise. Cast was strong. It used to be a film I enjoyed watching until I realized I was only enjoying pieces of it. And my wife brought that up too. We're talking about Thor. I'll talk about that later. I like this film for certain pieces of it. Basically the Brandon Routh scenes where he's seeing the airplane and stuff like that. He's great. I thought he was a great Superman, no question. But this film just was going through the motions. There's a lot of set pieces, a lot of noise, but not much story. There's a huge Christ allegory too, which kind of overshadows everything. Box office wasn't where it was, and basically they just put it to bed. Which is a shame because I like Brandon Routh. So this was DC's attempt to bring Superman back, and failed, of course. And that raises a question too. How do you have so many superhero films or even let's take an Access DC catalog? How can you not make a Superman film? Well, I suppose it'd be like me saying, why can't I make a I don't know, a James Bond film? I don't know the source material. But also, we had a lot of clunkers in 2000. Daredevil, Ben Affleck. Hulk with Eric Bana, done by Ang Lee. That is a weird film, dude. If you want to watch a weird film, watch that film. Who gives Ang Lee a Hulk film? Don't ask me. But at least Daredevil and Hulk were at least watchable. Daredevil isn't bad. Problem is with Ben Affleck is Ben Affleck's always Ben Affleck. There are some that are pure trash. Catwoman? Don't watch it. No redeeming qualities. Elektra? I had to wait to watch that with Switz before I could actually watch it all the way through. It was just unwatchable. Ghost Rider? Don't ask. Nick Cage wanted to be a superhero. So with all these basically, with Fantastic Four, these clunkers, is it the end of superhero films again? Have we basically, has Hollywood had enough, lost enough money, saying we're done? We can't do any more superhero films. Nope. Because, once again, there is a bright, shining diamond in this era. And that's the Christopher Nolan films. Batman Begins, and The Dark Knight. Again, they gave people an alternative. There are dark, gritty films. They gave you a top-notch director. And here's something interesting I'm going to pitch forward to you. These are not superhero films. These are vigilante films. They're not superhero films. And we look at them that way, basically, you have a whole different perspective. Solid performance, a solid box office, great cast all around, and Heath Ledger is the best Joker. And like I said, I really think Nolan's Batman, again, this is another kind of like high watermark in superhero cinema. When these hit the film, when these hit the screens, this was something different. Something new, something improved, something you can sink your teeth into. I love The Dark Knight. I don't watch it often, but I do love The Dark Knight just for Heath Ledger. Rounding out the 2000s, remember that origin film I was talking about that killed X-Men 3? Here it is. We got Hulk with Edward Norton, Liv Tyler, Tim Roth, William Hurt, and Siskel. Gotta give you credit. Love you, buddy. The studios are just trying to cash in on things. That's all they're trying to do. Can I make a super film? Can I make money? Like Fox with Wolverine. Wolverine this, Wolverine that. Like, it was almost like trying to just beat enough money out of that character to do something. Not a fan of either one. I'm really surprised X-Men didn't kill Wolverine didn't kill the whole X-Men franchise. It's terrible. Absolutely terrible. So here we are, near the end of 2010's coming. It looks like superheroes are in the basement again. This is it, right? We're done here. There's no possible way that superheroes can bounce back. We're done. Boom. Iron Man. Where were you when you saw Iron Man? The Marvel Studio Renaissance had arrived. So up until this point, Marvel didn't have a studio. They had other places making their movies, writing them, directing them, all that kind of stuff. Marvel said, you know what? Let's do our own studio. Let's take control of our properties and make them our way. So Marvel said, let's do it. And even more incredible was they came up with a 10-year plan, the Russo brothers. Thank you, Yanni. Thank you very much, man. Much appreciated. 26 months. Oh my gosh. Shout, dude. I don't want my alerts on this one. Everybody, give Yanni a follow. All around great guy. Longtime friend of the stream. Miss you, buddy. Just talking about superhero films. Doing quite well, man. I'm narrowing down 50 years of superhero films. I just went through the last 30 years. I'm up to the last 20 years now. Hope you're doing well, Yanni. I'm talking about the Marvel Renaissance. When Marvel decided to basically make their own studio. Launched their own kind of like brand. Hired the Russo brothers. And the Russo brothers had a 10-year plan to get us to an ending. I can't stress how important Iron Man was to be the first out of the gate and be successful. Robert Downey Jr. was written off. You know, he went to jail for drugs. And yet here he is. But knowing his personality, he's Iron Man. He's Tony Stark. What made this film good is highly accessible. The top-notch crew. This is a film that you can show to anybody. Like my dad, my wife, and they can watch and enjoy some part of it. And without knowing much of anything. Again, good out of the gate, basically. Look at that. 2010s. We've sailed through the first 40 years like that. And now we're coming into the last 14 years. Remember how I asked you how you feel about superhero films now? And, you know, we don't kind of look forward to them. We're kind of like, oh, God, not another one. Or, oh, whatever. It's because we're drinking from the fire hose. The number of films is accelerating. 1970 to 2000, there was 10 theatrical films. From 2000 to 2010, 10 years, there were 20 films. From 2010 until 2020, 43 theatrical released films. That doesn't include their TV properties or stuff like that. If you feel like you're being overwhelmed, you are. You don't have time to breathe. You don't have time to reflect. You don't have time to do anything except try and consume this media. So if you feel like you're drinking the fire hose, you are. So, we got Iron Man 2 and 3. I feel fatigue is setting in at this point. 2 was decent. 3 lost the audience. Critics liked the third film, but the audience wasn't so sure. Did well, but by the third film, this is only like 5 years later from 2008. You could feel that Marvel's trying a little too hard to set up the big payoff, right? You know what's coming. Even Iron Man 2, I like watching it. I watch it fairly often. I'm not sure if it's a strong film, but I still watch it. We got Thor. Again, first Thor, excellent. Why? It's accessible. It's entirely different from Nolan's Batman and Iron Man and X-Men. Hemsworth is Thor. It helps a lot. I can't see anyone else as Thor. Second film was hard to watch. It was just boring and uninspired. Not all of them can be winners. But again, I don't think the point of Dark World was to be highly successful. It was just basically to push along the big narrative, the big build-up. Even Hemsworth said he was ready to hang up after the second film. He didn't want to do a third film. He wasn't happy with the second film. I'm looking. I don't even see Christopher Eccleston on the poster for Thor: Dark World. He was the villain, actually, the Dark Elf, and he has regrets about taking that money. Now, Captain America, again, another great first film. This is my pick for the best film of early Marvel movies. Has a lot of heart and emotion, aka cinema. Casting was great. Like I said, Chris Evans, Haley Atwell, they're all great. And again, I got to reflect on this one. It wasn't the action or seeing Evans in the Captain America uniform that made this film great. There was character investment. It wasn't about Captain America smashing up guys. It was about Captain America just finding out who he was and where he belonged in this world. I enjoyed it. I watch this one regularly, and I think this should be the model for most Marvel films. Doesn't overcomplicate itself, doesn't stay too long. It's still a long film, though. We're back up to 121 hours for films, for actually a film length. It's getting longer again. Now, all between that, Fox wedges us in another X-Men film because you know what? They got to make another X-Men film to keep that license. The studio decided that the present X-Men were wrecked. They're trash. We can't do any more. Why not go back to the start? It's a decent film. Unique take on to make it stand out. Going back to when the X-Men were formed. It's got a strong cast. I don't mind it. I don't watch it very often. Hugh Jackman had a cameo in it at the start for 30 seconds. To let us know that was in the same universe, still connected. But again, it wasn't, it wasn't bad, but it was different. Then we got the last of the Nolan trilogy, Dark Knight Rises. Caps it off nicely. To me, these Nolan films, Batman Begins, Dark Knight Rises, The Dark Knight, these should have been the blueprint for DC, for the DC universe. These films are excellent. Again, I keep stressing it, gave audiences an alternative to the bubblegum Marvel films. I don't watch these films as often as I should, but they are great movies. And I tell you, they found an audience. They were just great, in my opinion. And I'm most disappointed that DC didn't embrace this and kind of went, I don't know why Warner Brothers went the way they did. I don't know. Don't ask. It kind of really sucks when I think about it. Here we go, folks. Another big moment was the Avengers in 2012. If you would have told me in 2008, 2005, that I was gonna see a movie with Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, like the Avengers, I would have said no way. If you would have told me that they would have all had the characters and all the actors from the films I just watched, I would have thought you were insane. Because ensemble films usually don't work. That's because of egos and stuff, right? But this film does work. And it's another milestone in superhero history. It's very watchable. It's uncomplicated. And I don't feel like any one character overshadows the other in this one. We're also introduced to Mark Ruffalo's Hulk, which is nice. And Hawkeye gets his first full screen appearance along with the Black Widow. It's very fun. And again, I think part of it is the writing and the casting, but again, I was impressed with it. I still watch it. I still enjoy it. Meanwhile, Sony's taking a swing again with Spider-Man. They need to make a movie. They need to make a movie or they're going to lose that license. So they come up with 2 films starring Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone. These films I don't really care for. It's not because they're bad films. There's some strong performances, especially with Garfield and Stone. They're excellent. My issues are these are not Spider-Man films. Spider-Man is supposed to be a struggling teenager, a struggling kid. He's supposed to lack confidence. He's supposed to have that charm. I felt that Garfield Spider-Man was too calm, too collected, and just sailed through things. Not to mention the villains are kind of whacked, whatever kind of thing. And again, it feels like the studio was meddling again to have too many villains and things are required, to happen. They're there with their hands in it. I feel bad for Garfield because he was nothing wrong with him at all. It was the film and the way around it that I think really hamstrung him. And like I said, I'm glad he came back in No Way Home. Could give it a redemption, but like I said, the more I think about these films, the more I kind of groan because there's potential wasted here. What's that? DC's back? Absolutely. They're saying Marvel making a lot of money off those films. Let's take a shot at it. So what do? Let's drag out the Man of Steel for the third time. Let's go for Superman again. It's a depressing film. Now, I know everybody's probably having good memories of the film and all that. And my darling wife will say the same thing, as we're thinking about pieces of the film we like and pieces of the film we forget. We forget that Superman's father, Jonathan Kent on Earth, told him to let his friends die in that bus and drown, not to reveal to anybody as Superman. Don't forget that he also told his son not to save him when he got sucked up in the tornado, so he was Superman. It's a very depressing film. And I'm amazed that Superman is as well just as he is. It was a sea of the lukewarm reception. It wasn't overly great, but it was overly bad. But regardless of what I think, anyone else thinks, about the film itself, pardon me, Henry Cavill is Superman. Henry Cavill stepped into that role. He got the character. Everything about him screams Superman. And I think James Gunn not using him in his movies is one of the worst crimes ever to be committed, cinema-wise. Cavill was filming The Witcher, stepped away from that to come back to do Superman because he thought he was going to do Superman, and Gunn said no. Gunn's first film of his DC universe is going to be a Superman legacy film. That film better overshine Henry Cavill as Superman. If it doesn't, it's dead on arrival. And again, not a fan of DC films, but Henry Cavill Superman, there's no question. 3 years later, we get Batman v Superman. Oh my God. Everything was done to make this film fail. Gutty's lost cinema's president. The studio is like arms deep in this film, going like crazy. Ignoring the comic story, focused on bad casting, gave us a Batman and Wonder Woman without introducing them, just all over. Affleck feels like it's a whole other movie. The film is 153 minutes long. That's 2 hours and 33 minutes. This is one of the few movies I fell asleep watching on my first viewing. I was so bored, I just fell asleep. So many bad ideas in the script. It was not well received. I'm very surprised DC didn't regroup, because like Superman Man of Steel was great. This one was like, whoa. Let's but no. What they do? Push ahead, give us a Wonder Woman. A year later, we get Wonder Woman. And again, was Gal Gadot the right call for the lead? Attempt to leverage the Supergirl TV show as a model for marketing promotion. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not a big fan of the DC film universe. The DC TV universe is excellent. Go check it out. Legends of Tomorrow, Flash, Arrow, they're all excellent. Supergirl's marketing for the TV show actually helped it find an audience. They tried to use those same strategies to get this movie out. It's a competent film, but it's not an inspiring film. Like, you see it, and then you kind of forget about it. So it's a bit confusing because you're trying to play catch-up with Wonder Woman's origin. Like, you've got her doing something, and then you're going back, having flashbacks, figuring out who she is and all this kind of stuff. So don't forget, 2017. So we had Man of Steel 2013, 3-year gap. We get this one. 1 year gap. We get Wonder Woman. Later that year, we get Justice League. Warner Bros. Wanted that Avengers money. They wanted an ensemble film as fast as possible. A super contentious production. It's a rush mess of a movie. Warner Brothers wanted it in under 2 hours. They kind of basically fought with Snyder about certain cuts. He had to sit down and take care of his family. Whedon took over. It went to crap. He had problems with a lot of the actors. Cyborg's part was reduced. Godot wouldn't talk to him. Snyder came back, tried to salvage the film. Mixed reviews due to bad plot, weak pacing, generic villain, lack of investment characters. It's a bomb. It was an utter box office bomb. It made money, but it didn't make its money back at all. The Snyder Cut's not any better. And again, what could have made this better? Just don't rush it. You had one bad film, another weak film behind it. You throw this at us. Don't rush it. We're on an ad break here, so wait for a little bit for everybody to come back here. Hope you're enjoying the stream. I'm Uncle Gutty, the original Gangster Gamer, child that lover of all things retro, TikToker, podcaster. Got a podcast, Moments, Time, and Space. Go check it out. Like short horror stories. It's really good. It's free too. Won't take you long. 5 minutes, 7 minutes tops for each episode. Go check it out. I'm just writing down the 50 years of superhero films, giving my thoughts on it. We're deep into 2017, and we've basically gone on a curve like this from slow right up to like just getting blasted with movies. Like I said, they traditionally were about 2 to 3 years apart. Now they're, well, at this point, months apart. And it's starting to show. We're starting to get superhero fatigue, basically. Marvel's done well with their Avengers. DC tried to get a cut of that. And we're not sure where they're going. So this is only 7 years ago. You think about it, it wasn't that long ago. But it feels like a lifetime ago, considering all the properties we've had to look at since then. It's insane, isn't it? Like I said, even though I like Marvel films to a degree, having to watch all those TV properties, it's a pain in the butt. Welcome back, everybody. Oh, by the way, before I forget, thank you, lurkers. If you're sitting back, relax, enjoy the ride. We're having a good time here. What else have we got in the 2010 era for superhero films? This bad boy. Guardians of the Galaxy, very fun film. This is the one film I would have guessed would have failed. If you had told me you're going to make a film based upon these characters, I would have said there's no way it's going to work. They were not like A or B stringers in the comics. They were basically guest stars and occasional interests. Strong writing, strong performances, and didn't take itself too seriously. Made it successful. Put Gunn on the radar too. James Gunn, like I said, it got attention. DC was probably looking at his lips, looking at a way to bring him over. But I enjoy this one. I watch this one on a regular basis. It's fun. And again, it's also, I said there are some fighting in it, but as you'll watch as we get more towards the end of 2010, there's more and more fighting and combat and less character development. And fun fact, guys, there's some people, TXS Mom, my darling wife, don't like a lot of combat, fisticuffs. Build the characters up. Character development, give it to me. Let me know what's going on. Give me a reason to care or to cheer. Got Ant-Man 2 films there. Again, another one I would have suspected never to be successful. First film was surprisingly good. I enjoyed it. I think it helped that it had Paul Rudd. The second film just took a lot of things out from the first one and took it out. It's not even enjoyable. These I call basically Marvel B movies. They weren't there to make a lot of money or be highly successful. They were just there to move the plot along to get to the big payoff. Watch a 2-hour film to watch after credits, see what's going to happen next, kind of thing. First film's decent. Second film, like I said, I could tell it was starting to move towards like, oh no, here we go. It's starting to canoe, as I call it. Remember the X-Men films? Fox is still there trying to keep that license. And if there's any kind of metaphor for being a dead horse, this is it. Remember, they gotta make a film every 2 to 3 years to keep the franchise going, the rights going. Days of Future Past wasn't bad. Again, Wolverine is money. Wolverine is money, pardon me. Hugh Jackman was there front and center. DOFP races a lot of The Last Stand. That's the third X-Men film, so way to take care of that. Jackman carried a film as Wolverine, so it was kind of good. I enjoyed it. They kind of mostly respected the storyline of the comics. I thought it was pretty decent. Each film, however, had declining returns. X-Men Apocalypse was meh at best. I can barely remember the plot. It was that uninteresting to me. Dark Phoenix is near unwatchable. And with Dark Phoenix, another franchise bit the dust at that point. Like, I don't know what the thing was making that third film except to try and keep the license, but it was like... After Apocalypse, I knew they were in trouble, but I didn't think they actually would try and go and push through. But yeah, it's don't watch these. And with that, this franchise is done. Now that Disney now has acquired Fox, they've got the X-Men rights back. So now we'll be seeing X-Men probably in the future in some form. But man, what a long way to get there, eh? Now, I've got an outlier. Logan. Diamond in the rough. Pitches one last hurrah for Wolverine. You've got Hugh Jackman, Patrick Stewart. The studio left the production pretty much alone. So the director and Jackman could make the film the way they want it. It's simple. It's well written. Keeps true to the source material. It's not a superhero film. It's a character-driven drama. This is why it works. And I thought it was a really good film. And I should watch it again because I haven't watched it in a while. But I thought it was a really good film. Again, not a superhero film. Character-driven drama. Let's not forget, though. There were some serious bombs in 2010. And I meant bombs away, like big time. More films and more bombs. Jonah Hex? Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance? Oh my gosh. Green Lantern? Heck, even Ryan Reynolds made a joke about it in Deadpool 2. The Wolverine? Oh my god. Like I said, Fox is just beating that Wolverine Hugh Jackman just to get the money out of that franchise. And then Fantastic Four is supposed to be a reboot. I think based upon the Ultimate Universe. Unwatchable. Absolutely unwatchable. That killed Fantastic Four for the Fox. Rights came back to Marvel. But man. Captain America chugs along. We got 2 more films from them. Winter Soldier, Civil War. Civil War, I was getting a little tired at this point. Again, we're getting just blasted by superhero films. You only watch Civil War for the Superman, the Spider-Man, pardon me. You watch Civil War for the superhero battle and the Spider-Man, that's it. Films are making a boatload of money, but, you know, they're not, in my mind, lasting or enjoyable or you know, just great. Fatigue setting at this point in 2014. I can feel it. I love The Winter Soldier. It's a great political thriller, but forgettable. I like the film. I really enjoy it. But I never watch it, and I always forget about it until someone mentions it. How bad is that? That's how bad it is for me. And Civil War, like, forget it. We're just, you know, whatever. We're just throwing stuff against the wall. Got another B film here, Doctor Strange. They're going towards big payoff part 2, which is, of course, Infinity War. Casting was key. Bernadette Cumberbatch was absolutely great. Doctor Strange. Spent the source material. One of the better Marvel B films, but again, does not really stick with you like it should. We're getting films so quickly now, like every 4 months, that we're losing track of films. Or remember what they're about, basically. Like, that 2 to 3 year gap between a film, give you time to digest it, watch it, think about it, look forward to it. If you get a bad film in January, and you see another one coming out in April, May, you still got that bad taste in your mouth. So, like I said, there's no time to really sit back and enjoy it. Sony ties off its Spider-Man franchise with, starts it basically with Homecoming and Far From Home. Pardon me. So, Sony knew unlike Fox, Sony knew they needed a bit of help. So they tag team with Marvel. And they got Marvel to help out. Sony would release the film and distribute it, but Marvel had to help producing it. Marvel got access to Spider-Man. Homecoming felt smaller, but in a good way. It wasn't overcomplicated. It got back to its roots. And it was good. Michael Keaton as the Vulture. I'm all up for Michael Keaton. They're good once, but I don't go back to watch them. I also feel like a different vibe from other Marvel films. And that's okay. Because there's Sony films, right? And there's Sony Spider-Man films. That was okay. But like I said, it's not something I'm going to pull out and say, I would feel like watching that again. But here's a big payoff number 2. Age of Ultron, Infinity War, Endgame. Again, if you told me that you're going to film the Infinity Gauntlet saga, I would have laughed in your face. That's impossible. You can't do that. I was wrong. Endgame was a great payoff. We got to see all the battles and all that. All the heroes and all that. Made tons of money. But by this point, 2019, I'm tired. I've gotten so much superhero films, so much fighting and all that. I'm tired. Endgame was 181 minutes, 3 hours long. It's a long film to sit through and wait for the end. This is the end of the Russo brothers' run, end of their 10-year plan. We're done. They walk away. We did it. Great. And like I said, I don't watch these films. They're just too long for the payoff. I like stuff like Captain America. Something short. Well, not short, but, well, it's not short than this one. Short, sweet, and complete, in my opinion. So now, basically, Marvel's done. 2019, they've reached the end of their plan for now. What's DC doing? Well, DC's trying to actually crib from Marvel. Group films are in. So you know what? Let's do Suicide Squad. Don't worry about the Donner cut. That's a mistake on my slide. There's miscasting abound in here. Like, Will Smith is totally on miscast wrong. Jared Leto's Joker is trash. Absolutely the worst Joker I've seen in my life. David Ayer, who is a very competent director, says the film editor made a different film than he did. They cut it up. The first cut was horrible. It was dark. It was uneven. They tried to reshoot it to make it more lighthearted film. It just doesn't work. And Will Smith, like, it doesn't work at any level. The only thing great about Suicide Squad was it got Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. Her, like Henry Cavill, nails Harley Quinn. She knows a character. She delivers and does well. Will Smith couldn't be the farthest away from his character as possible. Same with Jared Leto. Again, bad casting can destroy a good film. And that's what I believe here. So Suicide Squad was here and gone again. So leading up to so this happened before Endgame. We got another third Thor film. This put some fun back in the franchise. Taika Waititi has a particular vibe. Felt like a lot of pressure was off the cast just to go out and have fun. And Tom Hiddleston rules. This is another film too that my darling wife, I love her to pieces, brings up a good point. A good villain makes a good film. And she said that, not me. When I was asked to name the villain in this film, I forgot Hela was in it. Completely forgot the front and the beginning, front and the end of this film. All I can remember was Thor being a fight of the Hulk, the Grandmaster, and all that fun in between. I forgot the front and the end of this film because the villain, as much as I like Hela and all that, I just lost it. I just forgot. But another thing that's going to be unpopular, I think the Thor films are more of a set for Loki than Thor himself. Again, a fun film. I like watching once in a while. You know, it's fun. I like to laugh. Anthony Hopkins pretending he is Loki pretending to be Odin is hilarious. Not to mention getting Hemsworth's brother playing him for the film. It's a fun film. What's Marvel doing? Well, trying a bit hard, I'd say. Aquaman's one of their stronger DC films. It's enjoyable. Casting is decent. Very profitable. And you know what? It was actually one of the few good successes. I watched it. I had a fishbowl of liquor, but that's besides the point. But I thought Aquaman was a pretty decent DC film. And again, maybe they'd use it as a template for other films going forward. Now, I do have some issues with the film, like Momoa is supposed to be the king of Atlantis, but he goes, "Sup, dude? What's happening, eh?" Well, I just say that's a Canadian, just Momoa. Not a big fan. But you know what? It is a watchable DC film. And I thought it was pretty good. We got some weird outliers. We had Venom. It's one of those films that's outside of Marvel Studios. It's not a Marvel Studio film. It's made by somebody else. This shouldn't work on paper, but it delivers. Tom Hardy can do no wrong. He is why this film works. He is Venom and all that. Has a strong fan base. It's not my type of film, but I know Deadpool's not some other people's type of film. This is a nice surprise. I think there's hints of a franchise here, in my opinion. Something to really go on. Another outlier? Black Panther. Strong film. Huge cultural impact. Chadwick Boseman leads a strong cast. He's Black Panther. Absolutely slim. I gotta agree, like, this to me doesn't work on paper. Like, the whole character, everything about it doesn't work. But they did it. And this is a solid film. And like I said, give Tom Hardy more control. Welcome in, man. Let me shout you out here. We're just running through 50 years of superhero history. But Black Panther, I went and saw it, and I was more impressed with the cultural aspects of it. And I think this one, based on what I saw in the first film, I would have picked this basically as the one to be a franchise success in the next decade. No question. I'll tell you what, being Indigenous, I see the importance of this film. I know it sounds dumb, but when you are a child from a marginalized group, and all you're seeing basically is Caucasian heroes on the screen, this is huge. This is important. This is why stories like this need to be told. This is why I love Black Panther. It says, look, it's something, you know, you can do this and all that. And like I said, I really enjoyed it when I saw it. Not to mention Andy Serkis as one of the minor villains is great too. But Chadwick Boseman, like, he's Black Panther. Henry Cavill is Superman, no question. This is what basically like sold me on it. Rounding out the 2010s, Captain Marvel. I love the time period. 1990s is great. Cinematography is beautiful. It's a beautifully shot film. Color-wise, shot-wise, beautiful. I feel Brie Larson is miscast. I don't feel she has the oomph to be Captain Marvel, in my opinion. The story feels paced on. The film feels slapped together. It feels like I said, it's a B film for the B side, limping along. Only purpose was to get Captain Marvel in your face, so when she shows up in Endgame, you know who she is, kind of thing. That's it. That's all it is. And DC had another good hit, Shazam. Trivia fact, I am a huge Captain Marvel fan. I'm a huge Shazam fan. I love Shazam. When I heard DC was doing a Shazam film, I'm like, really? Because knowing the track record they had, I was worried that, it was going to be horrible. It surprised me. Respects the source material. It updates it. Could have been a lot worse, but it was not. I thought it was a very good film. Very fun. It's one of those DC films I consider accessible. You don't need to know a lot about other DC stuff to enjoy this film. You can identify the hero. But the ending made me worry about the sequels, like what's going to go on with this here. There was some trouble, right? Now we forget Deadpool and Deadpool 2. Again, the opposite of Uncle Gutty's rule of cinema. The studio was kept as far away from these films as possible. Reynolds knew what he wanted and he delivered. Makes no apologies for his R rating. Doesn't get held too seriously. Respects the source material. And again, this is another film I thought was unfilmable. And I'm not a Deadpool comic fan. I can't stand Deadpool in the comics. I find them annoying. I find it, I don't like it. I eat these movies up. I love these films. I think I've seen Deadpool 3 times in the theater. And I enjoyed it. And my darling wife enjoys them too. Because, well, one, there's a romance here. It's a romance story. There's character building here. 3, there's some funny, but it's more about, you know, the humor and all that. They're fun films. And what I love about Deadpool was marketing. It came out in February. Ryan Reynolds had posters saying, "See the romantic comedy of the year," about Deadpool. I howled because it was true. And I like how, you know, they got Colossus, you know, can't wait for more X-Men, all that. I don't know. I just enjoy it. And I thought these two are good. I'm looking forward to Deadpool 3. They keep more of the same. And again, Ryan Reynolds kept the studio away from his film. And he knew what he wanted to do, and he did it. I'm going to leave off with one weird one here, Joker. It's not a superhero film. It's a character study about a man descending to madness. It's a very unique film. Polarizing reviews. Some people rave about it. Some people hate it. Joaquin Phoenix was phenomenal. Like, I saw this film twice in the theaters. Once by myself, once with my father, and then watched it once at home. It's hard to watch, though. You're watching him spiral down into this madness, and you're just kind of like, oh, it's uncomfortable. But the look of the film is great. Phoenix just captures every scene he's in. Oh, and there's just little things in it that just, I just eat it up. This is cinema, by the way. This is truly cinema. Like when he's at home, he's going on the talk show. Spoilers. He's putting on his Joker makeup. His old friends from the job he got fired from being a clown stop by to give him a gift because his mother passed. He kills the guy who gets him fired. Beats him to death. The other guy, who was a little person, watches it and is like traumatized and he's crying. And as cool as a cucumber, he says, "No, you can go, don't worry." And he goes to the door and he can't reach the latch. And he cries and he has to ask him to open the door. It's those ones that make this movie powerful and long lasting. There's no villain in this one. He is his own villain. And, you know, like I said, I loved it. I am worried about the sequel, though. Lady Gaga in a musical with the Joker? I don't know. But man, what a film. I'm thinking what about a film? Here's some trivia for you. Jerry Ludo was very upset. He was promised a standalone Joker film when he shot Suicide Squad. They said, never that. They said, no way you're getting a standalone Joker film. Again, the director fought against the studio to avoid Gutty's Law. The studio wanted Leonardo DiCaprio to star as Joker. You know why? In hopes that if Leonardo was attached, Martin Scorsese would show up to direct. The guy who hates superhero films. Crazy, eh? So where are we now? We're in the present. 2020. If you thought we were, you know, had fire hose of capes, we're drowning them now. Again, 10 films in 30 years. We had 20 from 2000 to 2010. We had 43 from 2010 to 2020. From 2020 to 2024, there have been 22 films released in 5 years. 22 in 4 years, pardon me. DC and Marvel films. We're on pace to do 55 films by 2030. Multiple TV shows as well. We are drowning in superhero properties. It's too much. And I wonder why things are not, you know, going well. 4 years, 22 films. That's like 5 films a year. 1 film every 2 months. It's unsustainable. I'm saying this is the end of the line. I'm sorry. I'm just saying that right now. Once the big payoff happened for Avengers Endgame, they've not captured any blockbusters, really. There's been more misses the last 4 years than there have been hits. Look at the list. Birds of Prey, Wonder Woman 84. New Mutants was garbage. Flaming garbage. Do not watch that film. Eternals, Venom was decent. Morbius, flaming garbage. Adam, flaming garbage. Doctor Strange, competent, but not a blockbuster. Black Panther, disappointment. Complete disappointment to what they did with it. Thor: Love and Thunder, another disappointment for me. After enjoying Ragnarok so much, Love and Thunder was unpleasant. Shazam 2 was trash. Good God, what a mess. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, I'm not going to go on to that one. Like I said, The Flash, trash. Aquaman and the Last Kingdom was the most recent one out. Box office bomb. We're done. And the studios are crying about money. The studios saying that we can't sustain things. They can't keep throwing money away like this, right? At least I say that. Having said all that, I do have some films from 2020s I do like. Shang-Chi. I like this film. Didn't feel like a typical superhero film. It's a solid B-class film. One of those Marvel supporting films that should have been followed up on. It turned to be more like a stepping stone for other films, unfortunately. I like this film. My wife liked this film. My daughter liked this film. It was good. But it just kind of like, I don't know what happened. Why it didn't follow up on it. And it was successful. You know, it was decent for what it cost and all that. Spider-Man No Way Home, I'm going to grudgingly give this basically a thumbs up. It felt like Spider-Man's greatest hits. Bringing back old villains was a key to success. Seeing Alfred Molina and Willem Dafoe one more time, they really helped this film soar. Still felt a little convoluted at times. Basically just trying to get to the end to, you know, have that big, you know, reunion with Maguire and Garfield. But we're not sure what the future holds. It was okay, but like I said, I'm just glad I got to see the Raimi villains one more time. Then we can't forget the Batman. Again, I am hesitant to call this a landmark in superhero cinema, but I think this is one of the few truly blockbuster shining points in the last 4 years. Dark and gritty is back. Feels more like Nolan's approach. It feels more grounded in reality instead of basically superhero. The Catwoman subplot could have been dropped altogether. It's a solid start, but there's a huge problem. It's going to collide with James Gunn universe. James Gunn got a roadmap. Go watch Old Man Theater on YouTube. Switch and I covered it. He's going to have a Batman Brave and the Bold film at the same time as Batman 2. You're going to have two different Batman films at the same time. That's not going to end well for anybody. Asterisk, if he gets that far. I don't think he will. I think his first couple films are going to basically flame out. Side note, he is trying to do the Marvel formula of movies and streaming television shows to build his universe. I do hear we're getting a Colin Farrell Penguin television streaming series. Farrell was awesome. Colin Farrell can do no wrong. His Penguin's excellent. What does the future hold? We got 4 films coming out this year for sure. Madam Web looks horrible. Deadpool 3. Hugh Jackman, man. Wolverine makes money. Fingers crossed. Kraven the Hunter. I don't know. Venom 3. Let's go. 2025, we got 6 films on the slate for sure. Captain America. Don't know. Fantastic Four. Optimistic. Superman Legacy. That is one of Gunn's new properties. It has to outshine Henry Cavill, or else it's going to fail. Thunderbolts. We got the Batman Part 2 as well, and a Blade film. 2026, Avengers 5. Yes, Avengers 5 it's called. 3 more Marvel films. 2027, Avengers, Secret Wars. So, from 2020 to 2030, the next 10 years, there are 38 known projects. Another 10 unscheduled. That makes almost 50 films. Remember I said we're going to have 55 films the next 10 years? We're going to get there. So, crazy, wild, unbelievable, eh?